Happy New Year. It is 2016. You are listening to the Sports Talk Ministry and Excellence that is the Lance J Radio Show on Advent Sports Network. It is great to have you with us in 2016. We have a lot of exciting and developing stories that we're going to cover on ASN throughout the year. I have big plans for the ticket. We have several new shows that are going to be debuting soon. We have a board of directors. We have executive partners. We have producers coming along. Shout out to Eric Cantrell, who is going to take over as the vice president at Advent Sports Network of Operations. 2016 is going to be a special year. Thank you for listening to the Lance J Radio Show and the Rubicon and One-on-One with MJ and Falcon Pride and all of the shows that we have. That said, let's get into 2016 and this year. What an embarrassment Michigan State, Sparty, one of our little brothers, our being Ohio State, as people that listen to the show know that I'm from Columbus, Ohio, and I'm an Ohio State University fan. What an embarrassment that Michigan State and Iowa, for that matter, just an embarrassment seeing Michigan State and Iowa get completely destroyed, annihilated, obliterated, embarrassed, emasculated, whatever adjective you want to use. Michigan finally cracks in to the Final Four of, I don't know what it's called technically, but the Final Four playoff, the college football playoff. They finally crack in. They beat Ohio State. Ohio State was basically sleepwalking through most of the year, didn't turn it on. They beat Ohio State fair and square. These guys get their shot at Alabama, and what do? They run off tackle the entire game. They get completely destroyed. Their game plan, Mark D'Antonio's game plan, was a complete disaster. For some reason, Mark D'Antonio felt that he would be able to beat Alabama 10-7, meaning that they would just run off tackle all game, punt, and play defense. Now, those of us who have followed Ohio State have seen this before, and the name was Jim Tressel. That's how Jim Tressel used to play all of his games. He wanted to win every week 17-13 or 7-3. He would just punt, and he would hope that his defense could get a stop. You cannot do that in prime time against Alabama. You're talking about the Crimson Tide. You're talking about Derrick Henry. You're talking about superstar players, Cyrus Jones, a bunch of guys that are going to go extremely high in the NFL draft. Talent all over the place. Guys that run a 4.4 and also weigh 240 pounds on offense and defense. For some reason, Michigan State just laid an egg, and it was an embarrassment that they got their chance at a primetime opportunity, a chance to make a statement, a chance to show that Sparty was actually a team that belonged to the party, not just a party crasher or someone that lucked into a victory against Ohio State. They went out, they lose 38-0. Then Iowa, the Hawkeyes, don't really do much better. Stanford was up on them 28-0 at the end of the first quarter. I hadn't even started to eat my chicken wings that I was eating while watching the game, and Stanford was up 28-0. This game was an embarrassment as well. The Heisman runner-up, McCafferty, who is an excellent player, and he's going to likely win the Heisman next year, ran all over the Iowa Hawkeyes. He returned a punt for a touchdown. He averaged 9.5 yards a carry. Just not a very good showing for the Iowa Hawkeyes. So what have we learned here? The Big Ten is not that good. I'm an Ohio State fan. I have to admit that the Big Ten sucks. You see us in the bowls getting creamed by the elite of the elite. Yes, Ohio State thumped Notre Dame. They destroyed Notre Dame, but Notre Dame was the consolation prize. Ohio State should have played for real throughout the year and got a crack at Alabama or Clemson or Oklahoma, and they would have had a chance to repeat as national champions. Michigan, very good showing by the Michigan Wolverines. They were all over Florida, who regressed throughout the year, and Florida won the SEC East. Definitely not taking anything away from Michigan. Jim Harbaugh got them to 10 wins in their first year, which is an excellent feat, something to definitely be proud of. They're going to give Ohio State a heck of a run over the next few years in Columbus. It's going to be a real battle like the Woody and Bo days between Michigan and Ohio State. However, Florida was not a very good team, and if you look what Northwestern did, losing 45-6 to Tennessee, just facts are facts. The Big Ten is not a very good football conference. If anything, the reason that we have teams that are ranked high and rated high is because they're playing each other. You're getting to beat up on scrub teams like Rutgers and scrubs like Maryland and Indiana and just awful programs, Purdue, Illinois, teams that don't have NFL caliber talent. For those listening to the Lance J Radio Show that don't understand what NFL caliber talent is, look at Ohio State, look at Alabama, look at USC, look at Oregon to a lesser extent. You see guys that are big and fast, and they're just athletically dominant. They're in a different ballpark. These are people that have hit the DNA lottery, guys that have speed, natural speed, that don't have to work out, don't have to take steroids, don't have to take creatine to put on muscle mass, don't have to have the level of strength and conditioning coaches. Some people are just born with the ability to be athletic and to make athletic plays, and that's what you see with the elite. You watch Michigan State play Alabama. They had absolutely no perimeter speed whatsoever. They didn't have anyone that could, on their offense, that could take the top of the defense, someone that was a deep threat. They didn't have running backs that had the cutback and lateral quickness to make the moves to hit the hole. They just don't have that. Iowa doesn't have that. It's an embarrassment, so I have to take it on the chin. I've taken it on the chin about the Colts not being good. I've taken it on the chin when Ohio State's lost. Other teams that I've supported that have not been successful. And as a Big Ten fan, it was very, very brutal watching our teams get completely squashed by elite competition and on a national stage. We have to find a way to do better. I don't know how that's going to be possible, because the truth of the matter is the best and the most elite, they're not going to Michigan State. They are not going to Iowa. They are not going to anywhere in the Big Ten other than Michigan and Ohio State. We will be back on the Lance J Radio Show after these messages. I'm going to talk a little bit more sports and talk about what we're going to do at Advent Sports Network in 2016.
The Ticket with Advent Sports Network, home of Falcon Pride, One-on-One with MJ, and the Lance J Radio Show.
Hi, I'm Patrice Renee, and you're listening to The Lance J Radio Show, and I'm the CEO and founder of You Evolve Hair. We offer a positive and affordable experience providing custom-made wigs, 100% quality virgin hair extensions, hair products, and hairstyling for the everyday woman. Follow us on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at You Evolve Hair, or simply visit our site, youevolvehair.com.
Stop calling Chip Kelly a racist. I've had several conversations with people within my circle that are glad that Chip Kelly got fired because he's a racist, because he cut LaShawn McCoy, they didn't re-sign Jeremy Maclin, he got rid of Deshaun Jackson. These guys are supposedly the cantankerous, swag, expensive black players that aren't quiet, that aren't quote-unquote house Negroes, and he replaced those guys with more quiet people that wouldn't disrupt his voice in the huddle, meaning Chip Kelly wanted to be the only voice in the huddle. That's hogwash. You guys that follow sports and only follow half of the story, you pick out one thing and say racism. Chip Kelly shouldn't have been fired because he's a racist. Chip Kelly should have been fired because he's an idiot and a terrible coach. He took a team, he inherited a team that under Andy Reid had been relatively successful. They had gone to many NFC championships. They had gone to a Super Bowl and competed. They're a perennial playoff team. Every year, the first year he coached them, they went to the playoffs. The second, they didn't. This year, they're a complete disaster. People don't understand is Chip Kelly also cut Evan Mathis, who was the best left guard in the NFL. There are a lot of websites and sabermetric people that rate statisticians that rate each position. He cut his best offensive lineman, who was also white. He cut Todd Herremans, who had been a long-standing offensive lineman in Philadelphia, who was also white. Chip Kelly basically got rid of all of the talent because he wanted people that would fit into his system. And finally, he replaced Shady McCoy with DeMarco Murray, who's also black and actually ran for more yards than Shady McCoy the previous year. So I'm tired and disgusted. I had this long conversation with several people the other day that Chip Kelly's a racist and he personifies what's wrong with coaching. Yes, there's a lot of racism in the NFL. Yes, it's a shame and ridiculous that there are only a small handful of black coaches both in NFL and college, considering how many black players there are. Yes, there's a lot of racism in the United States of America. We know that the legal system is unjust. We know that black players are not treated with the same respect publicly as white players. We know that blacks that get into trouble are referred to as thugs. We know that when white players get into trouble, they're referred to as rambunctious and people that have heart and people that have a lot of zeal and vigor. All of that's true, but Chip Kelly is just a bad coach. Most of you guys listening to my show think you know everything. And if you manage people or manage a department, or if you're an attorney and you have other attorneys that report up to you, or if you're a manager or an accountant and you have other accountants that report up to you, if you're a pastor, you guys have your own ego maniacs that go out and want to establish the programs the way you want. You guys micromanage. You guys think that you know everything too. So quit calling Chip Kelly a racist. He's no different than any of the other coaches in the NFL. He just sucks at his job, and now he'll be looking for another one. You're listening to the Lance J Radio Show, Advent Sports Network.
He's a one-dimensional fighter. He's a stand-up fighter. That's it, bottom line. I mean, he doesn't have anything else. You know, I'm more well-rounded. I have power. I can put people to sleep on their feet. I can take you down and beat a hole in your face, and I can submit you. What else can he do?
And Connor, what would your response to that be?
He will do absolutely none of those things. Not one little bit of a thing.
You are listening to the Lance J Radio Show on Advent Sports Network.
Back on the Lance J Radio Show, we're talking a little bit of Black Monday. Today is Black Monday, January the 5th, 2016. A lot of coaches are going to get clipped today. I am hoping that Chuck Pagano is one of them. As an Indianapolis Colts fan, I'm hoping to say good riddance to Chuck Pagano and hopefully Ryan Grigson, the awful GM of the Indianapolis Colts. I tend to believe news reports are floating out that Tom Coughlin from New York is also going to step down today. Chip Kelly was fired last week. You have potential that coaches could get fired. The coach out in Tennessee could get fired. You have several other coaches that will possibly get fired. Cleveland might completely clean house and clean their staff up. So one of the questions that we're looking at, with all of these job openings, where are people going to go? Sean Payton is someone. Sean Payton, a Super Bowl winning coach, is potentially going to part ways with New Orleans, kind of a mutual parting of the ways. I think in the clubhouse, if Indianapolis, if in fact Chuck Pagano is let go or not re-signed, they're going to probably have the best opportunity to lure a coach. I think they're going to make a run at Nick Saban. If they can't get Nick Saban, expect for them to make a very serious run at Sean Payton if he's available. Indianapolis, although Andrew Luck has regressed, he's not as good as Cam Newton, he's not as good as Russell Wilson. He's still a legitimate franchise quarterback, and he has value in the league. The Colts play in a dome stadium. They play on AstroTurf, so there's some advantages to playing in a dome. They have very nice facilities, and Indianapolis is a relatively media-friendly market. You look at the Cleveland Browns, who are going through an overhaul and probably going to change again. They need to make an extremely good coach hire. I mean, they have been back in the league for close to 20 years since the original Browns team moved to Baltimore and became the Baltimore Ravens. The Browns have been one of the worst franchises, not just in the NFL, but in professional sports over that span. I mean, they've only had a couple of playoff appearances, have never went deep into the playoffs. They've hovered around that 4-12, 5-10 mark. I believe this year they went 3-13. You're just talking about a terrible organization, top to bottom. Look for them to also be in play for perhaps a Sean Payton. You have Hugh Jackson, who is the offensive coordinator down in Cincinnati. He's an excellent coach. Look for the Browns to make a run at him as well. They need to get somebody in there that can stabilize that organization. Then you have the Philadelphia Eagles, who let go of Chip Kelly, the genius, the individual that was going to change football and turn it into a different sport, the individual that got worse with the Philadelphia Eagles teams every year. They have an opening at both the coach and the GM area, and that's going to be a very interesting job because they're kind of competing with the New York Giants, who are also going to have an opening. Both New York and Philly are northeastern towns. The weather is cold. They play outdoors. It's windy stadiums. You're in a division that's generally high profile and generally difficult. They were a poor division this year, but Dallas usually has good teams. The Redskins seem to be trending upward, and you always have that northeastern gritty, grimy battle. It's going to be very interesting. I would say look for Philly or New York or both to make a run at David Shaw, who's out in Stanford. David Shaw, African-American coach, guy's a genius. He's built Stanford, which has some difficulties getting elite players because of their academic requirements. He's built Stanford into an elite powerhouse program and kind of taken over for Jim Harbaugh and even expanded on the level of greatness that the Stanford Cardinal has. Look for one of those Northeastern teams to make a serious run at David Shaw. Same with Chip Kelly. Look for Chip Kelly to either land in Tennessee where he can reunite with Marcus Mariota, or look for him to possibly go to college. Texas would throw a whole lot of money at him. Texas is trying to get back into being elite. They won a national title in the Vince Young era. Well, if you look back, that was more than 10 years ago. Texas become a doormat for Oklahoma and even Texas Tech, TCU, some of the other teams out in Big 12 country. So look for Texas to make a run at Chip Kelly. Any way you slice it, it's going to be a very interesting day and week as you see a lot of coaches play musical chairs. Whatever happens, I just want to make sure Indianapolis Colts go out and get Nick Saban, give him $12 million a year, give him complete control over player personnel, get an offensive line, keep Andrew Luck healthy, go out and win a couple of Super Bowls, unlike with the Peyton Manning era where they failed to win as many Super Bowls as they should have based on the talent that they had. You are listening to The Lance J. Radio Show. We will be back on Wednesday talking more sports. Don't forget to listen to The Rubicon starring Jeremy Winston on Advent Sports
The
Network.
Lance J Radio Show is taped at Advent Sports Network Studios, located in beautiful Emerald City of Seattle, Washington.